Dick Dadey, Executive Director of Citizens Union, a good government group. Just wanted to know, what are you hearing about term limits right now?
Well, it seems to be, there seems to be support coalescing within the council and the administration to have the council enact legislation unilaterally without any voter involvement. And we are concerned that that may happen sooner than later, just because of the brewing storm that I think is being created out there of opposition. So I think the supporters will find more quickly than we thought.
There doesn't seem to be a huge outcry from editorial boards from at the newspapers. Why do you think that is right now?
Well, I think that the reason is, I think, is that there's no definitive proposal on the table. Both the two major leaders on this, Mayor Bloomberg and Speaker Quinn, have been rather mum. And so it's kind of tough for the editorial boards to hit up against something that's not yet on the table. And so I think that they're waiting to see whether if this is just another, wishful thinking by our elected officials, or whether this is in fact something that will come to pass.
I thought there was a bill being drafted by Oliver Coppell.
Well, Oliver Coppell has asked for a bill to be drafted. We don't know whether it is being drafted. It's, oftentimes this takes as long as 60 days. A lot of council members submit a lot of requests to get a lot of bills done. The Speaker hasn't yet commented on it, whether she's instructed her staff to do that or not. But I think that if this moves, they're going to try and tee up all the various parts together and just slam it right through.
Are you surprised that there hasn't been more vocal opposition from editorial boards? They recently commented on Charlie Rangel and his situation with the Ways and Means Committee chairmanship. Is this an issue that?
I think there's some genuine ambivalence out there about this issue. There is disappointment over the fact that the process could be abused to advance particular political careers of those affected. But also there's people are concerned about what's going on in the city, and so they're not necessarily wanting to make the kind of change that would happen if Bloomberg and others were to have to leave office in 2009. So people are open to it, given how they feel about the mayor. What we are trying to do is divorce the personalities and the people from the need to respect the process and the will of the voters.
Is this an issue that activates interest in the public and drives them to the polls, or is this just something that?
I think that. Well, I think what you're beginning to see is organized efforts by Citizens Union, by Common Cause NYPIRG, some of the unions, some of the elected officials. Other groups are starting to get out there and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not right, this is not fair. And it's been slow to come, but it's coming together rather quickly. And so I think that if a bill does get introduced, you will see something catch fire in terms of the opposition.
Could you detail that a little bit?
Well, I think you will see a number of groups that have been rather silent on this come out forcefully opposed to it. But I don't think they want to come out opposed to it until they know that something may in fact happen, for fear of alienating colleagues or allies. They want to react to something that's concrete and on the table. And then we've talked about having town hall meetings throughout the city. Trying to build grassroots support and actually hear what people have to say about this. So I think that there's a lot of stuff waiting to happen. That once a proposal, a bill gets put on the table, you'll see people come out. Interesting.
There was another issue that you kind of got involved with, which was the financial disclosure bill that the mayor had requested a hearing on that got canceled. What exactly was the intent of the bill, and what was the issue surrounding it?
The last couple of years, the state has reformed the disclosure requirements for those who serve on public authorities and various boards affiliated with the city and the state. And in doing so, they kind of captured a universe of people who are volunteers who serve as public servants on some of these boards, and would end up having to disclose the same amount of information, financial information, as elected officials. And so we do not discourage, good, well-intentioned citizens from volunteering their time to serve on these not-for-profits and commissions because of the amount of money, because of the amount of financial information they have to disclose. So what happened was that there was another bill this past year that allowed for there to be different levels of disclosure for people based on their different levels of involvement with the city. And so the less you're involved, the less you have to disclose. But what happened was that in creating this, shorter form for these folks, there was, part of this bill would actually lessen or weaken the disclosure currently in force for a lot of the elected officials and public officials. And we said no. What they were trying to do was noble and trying to match the law with the disclosure form, because what is being disclosed right now is above and beyond what the current law requires. But it's been the past practice for 18 years. So our argument was, since it's been happening for 18 years, let us not end it just simply to match the law. So we were very much opposed to seeing elected officials not having to disclose the categories of their income from outside income or their holdings.
And when did you find out that the hearing was canceled?
45 minutes before it was to be held.
Wow.
And I think, I think it happened because they started to see this firestorm of opposition to it and began to focus in on the element that we did not support. Because most of the effort has been focused on trying to create the short form and make it easier for those volunteers. And no one was really, I think, paying as close attention to the weakening of the requirements for the elected officials.
So what happens next with this issue or this bill?
Well, I think that the administration and the council have gone back to the drawing board with the Conflicts of Interest Board. We met with them on Wednesday and made clear the specifics of our concerns, and they heard us out. And I think they're going back and trying to hopefully start over and fix the mess.
Interesting. So term limits, financial disclosure. Is there anything else that's keeping you busy this week or next week?
Well, we were up in Albany yesterday, curiously enough, pushing for the legislature to increase financial disclosure requirements and to strengthen their ethics oversight of the legislators in light of the Tony Seminario thing. So this, had an Alice in Wonderland feel this week, Albany, you've got the leaders saying more disclosure, more disclosure, more disclosure, where in New York, they were trying to pass a bill that would actually lessen and weaken the disclosure. So it was kind of an interesting switch of roles between the city and the state.
What do you think the chances are that there'll be financial disclosure reports that fully detail what elected officials have in terms of outside income?
Our hope is, here in the city, we hope we keep it.
Right.
And in the state, embarrassments like McLaughlin and like Seminario, I think will hopefully create the need for the state to now put forward. Broad categories is fine. We would have been able to catch the McLaughlin. We would have been able to catch maybe the Seminario earlier had we not had this information, or had we had this information available to us. It just doesn't make sense. New York State is among the worst in the country in terms of the amount of money, in terms of the amount of disclosure it asks of its elected officials. And so Silver supports more disclosure. Skelos supports more disclosure. We'll hopefully get the kind of disclosure that we want to.
Do you think it'll happen before the new year, or if legislators get called back up to deal with the budget, do you think it could happen then, or is this something that's going to have to happen in the next legislative session?
It could happen. It could happen this legislative session. It could be part of a larger deal, so to speak, on increasing salaries. If we're going to increase the salaries for legislators, you're going to have to also, and keep it a part-time job, you're going to have to lay more cards on the table and let us know what you're doing outside being a legislator.
Thank you so very much.